Welcome back, Bazigars. In our last chapter, we discussed the basic of betting and learned when and how much should we bet in a pre-flop round of poker. We also learned how to size our bets and what reasons do we have for betting. In this chapter, we will discuss the various types of bets a player can make in the different stages of poker, which are pre-flop, on the flop, on the turn, and on the river in the final betting round. Pre-flop, unless you are on the big blind, you can bet in many ways. The first one is putting as many chips as the big blind, which is also known as call or limp. The second way is to raise by putting minimum twice the big blind amount if you are the first one betting after the blinds, either because you are seated right next to the big blind or the players before you have folded or limped. The third way is to re-raise the raise made by another player before you. In poker, this is known as a 3-bet. Why, you may ask? Is it dependent on the size of the raise we make? The answer to that question is no. In poker, the small blind and big blind are collectively considered the first bet, since all the players in every round have to place these bets. So any player who raises them is considered to be making the second bet, and when you re-raise that player's raise, it's known as a 3-bet. And that's how it goes on. If someone else re-raises you, it's called a 4-bet, and so on. For example, say on a 5-10 stakes table, the first player after the blinds raises to 25. Now you are sitting after that player and are dealt king-king. You choose to re-raise to 100, this is a 3-bet. Now if the player after you re-raises to 200, it's a 4-bet. The re-raises can continue after this as well in the same manner. Now you may come across a few other terms people use on poker table and may want to know what is 3x bet or 4x bet. Is it similar to 3-bet or 4-bet? Well, the answer to that question also is no. When you raise 3 times the previous bet made on the table, it's called a 3x bet. When you raise 4 times the previous bet made on the table, it's called a 4x bet. For example, say on the same table, the player before you raises to 20. And you re-raise him to 60, it's a 3x bet. But if you choose to re-raise to 80, it's a 4x bet. In both the cases, however, it is 3-bet. I hope I have been able to explain the difference between 3-bet and 3x bet here. Let's revise what we have learned. 3-bet, 4-bet or 5-bet etc. is known as the number of raises made in a round. And 3x bet, 4x bet, 5x bet etc. refers to the multiplication factor of raise you have made to the previous raise made on the table. If you are having trouble understanding the concept, please go through the example given earlier a few more times and soon you will realize it's a pretty simple thing to learn. Now let's talk about the bets one can make post-flop. When the pre-flop raiser again makes a raise after the flop is dealt is called a C-bet or continuation bet. Once again, like all other bets, a C-bet can be for value or as a bluff. For example, say you are on a 5-10 stakes table and everyone before you folds and you raise with king of spades, queen of spades. The small blind folds and the big blind calls. The flop is ace of hearts, 8 of diamonds, 2 of spades. The big blind checks. Now you can easily raise here as a bluff, because your raise will often convince your opponent that you do have an ace since you were the raiser pre-flop. Also, if the flop has ace of spades, 8 of spades, 2 of diamonds, your raise here is a semi-bluff, as you have the chance to improve to a flush in later stages of the game. So, you will be able to build a big pot in case you get called and another card of spades opens on turn or on river. Do check out our lessons on bluffing to understand the different types of bluffs a player can make. Let's now take a look at another example where you can get maximum value from the C-bet of your opponent. Say on the same table you are dealt 4-4 on big blind position. The middle position player raises to 30. All the other players fold and you call him. The flop is ace, queen, 4. Here the chances that the initial raiser, which is the player sitting in middle position, having connected with this flop are very high and you have hit 3 of a kind. So you can choose to check here and let him C-bet only to re-raise him after checking to get maximum value for the strong hand you have made. Do keep an eye on the hand strength meter on your app to know how the strength of your hand is changing with each new card getting dealt. Another mistake that new players make is that they think that they must make a C bet every time they have raised pre-flop, even when they haven't connected with the community cards. Now that is a tendency every player must control, as you can easily choose to check a flop that does not connect with your whole cards. There is no compulsion to C bet here. For example, say you are sitting on the same table with 10-10 in middle position, the players before you fold, you raise to 30, the dealer calls you, the blinds fold and the flop is ace 3 8. Here you see that there is one card bigger than your pair on the flop and the probability of your opponent having an ace is high. So you can choose to check here and avoid putting a C bet. Another interesting bet a player can make is a check raise. This bet is made when the player who is out of position or has to act before his opponent checks initially only to re-raise when the opponent makes the raise. It's interesting because it can also serve both the reasons to bet, which are 1. To get value from the opponent, or 2. To make them fold a better hand by convincing them that your hand is stronger. For example, say you are on the big blind on a 5-10 table and are dealt 3-3 and a player from middle position raises to 30. Everyone else folds and you call. The flop is 3-5-6. Now you have made 3 of a kind and it's difficult for your opponent to know the strength of your hand. You also realize that raising on this flop straight away can make the opponent fold, as he is unlikely to have made any strong combination with such small cards. So you check and let your opponent bet, which can be with 2 big cards or a big pair. Say your opponent bets 40 here. Now you can re-raise to 100, and if your opponent has a big pair, chances are you will get paid and win a big pot, as he will be unable to give up even on later stages of this round. Even if your opponent folds to your check raise, you manage to earn the extra 40 chips he bet on your check. So in either case, it's win-win for you. You can also check raise as a bluff, but please do remember that bluffing must not be done without any reason. Continuing the same example, you could check raise your opponent even if you had Queen Jack, since the chances of your opponent having connected to that flop remain slim. Your raise may convince him that you have made a strong combination and your bluff may just become successful. And with that, we come to the end of this chapter. I hope you are now well versed with the types of bets a player can make on the poker table and have also learned how to use various different types of bets effectively. Stay on for learning the other finer aspects of poker. We will see you in the next chapter.